Picture this. You are lying on a bed of rough wool and sheepskin, inhaling the sharp, pungent scent of boiled pine tar and tightly packed horsehair. The ancient, rarely mentioned mixture sealing the wooden planks just inches beneath your head. We almost always imagine the Norsemen as roaring warriors, bathed in the chaos, blood, and fire of violent raids. Yet the absolute truth of their existence was defined by agonizingly long, profound silences suspended in the middle of a vast, empty ocean. This extreme sensory isolation stripped away their fierce exteriors, leaving them entirely vulnerable to the crushing weight of the dark cosmos and the quiet, heavy rhythm of their own breathing. Modern history books focus on the loud clashes of swords, but the oldest, overlooked sagas whisper of the sleeping sea, a place where time itself seemed to completely freeze under the cold, unblinking stars. How did the most feared men of the medieval world find absolute, quiet peace in the freezing, endless dark of the North Atlantic? Tonight, you will find out as we embark on a Viking history sleep story designed to carry you far away from the noise. Before diving into these forgotten stories of survival and suffering, if you enjoy learning about the hidden truths of history, so consider hitting that like button and subscribing for more content like this. And please comment below to let me know where you're listening from. I find it incredible that we're exploring these ancient stories together from different parts of the world, connected across time and space by our shared curiosity about the past. Close your eyes and take a slow, deep breath in. Hold it for just a moment, and as you release it, let go of the heavy, frantic energy of the modern world. The bright screens, the endless notifications, the artificial hum of electricity, and the rushing traffic outside your window, allow all of it to simply dissolve into the background. You do not need to worry about tomorrow. You do not need to process the stress of today. Right now, there is only the slow, rhythmic pulling of the tide. We are traveling backward through time, leaving behind the concrete and the glass, crossing the boundary of 1,000 years to find a place of profound, untouched quiet. We are stepping into a world where time is not measured by ticking clocks or urgent alarms, but by the slow passage of the sun, the shifting of the winds, and the endless, repetitive swells of the deep ocean. You find yourself lying near the center of a wooden vessel. This is not a massive, rigid steel ship of our modern era, stubbornly fighting against the power of the sea. No, this is a Norse longship, a masterpiece of ancient engineering crafted entirely from the forests of Scandinavia. The people who built this ship understood that to survive the ocean, you must not fight it. You must move with it. And so they built a creature of wood that breathes and bends. As you lie there, bundled securely beneath heavy layers of woven wool and thick insulating animal skins, you can feel the entire structure of the ship responding to the water. It is a gentle, continuous motion. A slow rise as the ship climbs the back of a long, dark wave, followed by a soft, suspended moment of weightlessness at the crest, and then a long, smooth descent into the trough. Up and down. Rise and fall. It is a rhythm older than human history, and as you feel it in your bones, you begin to sync your own breathing to the ancient pulse of the sea. This is a relaxing history for sleep, a journey designed not to excite the mind, but to calm it entirely. There are no battles here. There are no shouts of war or clashes of steel. The men and women on this ship are not raiders tonight. They are simply exhausted travelers, lulled into a deep, heavy slumber by the hypnotic swaying of the deck beneath them. Look around you in your mind's eye. The sun has dipped low on the horizon, casting a soft, muted twilight across the endless expanse of the North Sea. The water is a deep, bruised purple, transitioning into an inky blackness as the evening deepens. Pay attention to the sounds around you. Without the roar of modern engines, the world is remarkably quiet, yet it is full of a rich, organic symphony. The most prominent sound is the water itself. It does not crash or break against the hull. Instead, it slices and glides. You hear a continuous, rushing hiss as the sleek, curved oak of the prow parts the surface of the sea. It is a soft, shushing sound, like a mother calming a restless child. With every passing second, yet that sound washes away another layer of your modern anxiety. Beneath the sound of the water, there is the voice of the ship itself. The Longship is built using a method called clinker construction. This means the long, sweeping planks of oak do not sit flush against each other. They overlap, fastened together by iron rivets. This ingenious design makes the ship incredibly flexible. As it rides over the swells, the overlapping wood shifts and rubs together. It creates a deep, resonant, rhythmic creaking. It is the sound of old, seasoned timber settling into the embrace of the ocean. It is a comforting sound, a reminder that the ship is strong, that it knows exactly how to navigate this vast emptiness, and that you are entirely safe within its wooden walls. Feel the crisp, clean air on your face. It is cold, carrying the faint, briny scent of salt, deep water, and a hint of distant ice. But the cold does not bother you. You are insulated. The heavy wool blanket pulled up to your chin traps the heat of your body. You can feel the rough, lanolin-rich texture of the fibers, spun by hand in a quiet village months ago and miles away. The contrast between the freezing air kissing your cheeks and the heavy oven-like warmth cocooning your body creates a deep physical sense of comfort. It is the kind of comfort that makes your eyelids feel heavy, that makes your limbs feel relaxed and deeply anchored to the wooden deck. As you lie there, looking up, the sky begins to change. The last lingering streaks of twilight fade away, replaced by a canvas of absolute profound darkness. Without a single artificial light for hundreds of miles in any direction, the atmosphere is incredibly clear. And then, slowly, the stars begin to appear. First the brightest ones, piercing through the velvet black, and then thousands of others, creating a dusting of silver light across the heavens. For the medieval Norsemen, this sky was not just a beautiful sight. It was their map, their compass, and their clock. But you do not need to navigate tonight. You only need to watch them slowly, imperceptibly trace their arcs across the sky. The sheer scale of the ocean around you is difficult to comprehend, but rather than feeling terrifying, it feels incredibly liberating. Out here, suspended between the deep, dark water and the infinite starry sky, all of the trivial concerns of the modern world simply cease to exist. There are no deadlines on a longship in the middle of the night. There are no urgent emails, no breaking news, no social obligations. There is only the wood, the water, the wind, and the stars. You are a tiny speck in a massive, indifferent universe, and there is a profound peace in surrendering to that realization. You do not have to be in control here. The ocean is in control. The steady hands of the helmsman, guiding the steering oar at the stern, are in control. You are merely a passenger, allowed to rest, allowed to let go. Breathe in again. Smell the aged oak, the salt spray, and the faint, earthy aroma of the wool. Breathe out and let your muscles sink deeper into the deck. Notice how the rhythmic rocking of the ship never stops. It is a constant, unwavering cradle. Every time you think your mind might wander back to a stressful thought, the gentle drop of the ship into the next wave pulls you back to the present moment, and the physical sensation is grounding, heavy, and deeply soothing. History is often written as a series of loud, dramatic events, a timeline of action and consequence. But the vast majority of human existence has been spent exactly like this, in quiet, enduring moments of travel, waiting, and resting. The people who sailed these ships experienced the same exhaustion you feel. They looked up at the exact same stars. They felt the same relief when they finally wrapped themselves in warm wool and closed their eyes after a long day. By tapping into this shared human experience, we find a strange, comforting connection to the past. Their silence becomes our silence. Their rest becomes our rest. Consider the incredible stillness of the water now. The North Sea, known for its sudden furies, has chosen tonight to offer a rare, glass-like calmness. The waves have smoothed out into long, rolling hills of water that gently lift and lower the vessel without a single splash. The movement is so smooth, so predictable, that your inner ear completely adapts to it, transforming the rocking from a physical motion into a steady, internal hum. It is as if the very heartbeat of the earth is pulsing beneath the wooden hull, a slow, thudding rhythm that syncs perfectly with your own resting heart rate. The sensory deprivation of the open ocean works its magic, peeling away the overstimulation of your daily life. With nothing to look at but the stars, nothing to hear but the water, and nothing to feel but the warm wool and the cold air, your mind has no choice but to power down, to surrender to the beautiful, boring emptiness of the ancient world. As the night deepens, the wind drops to a mere whisper. The massive square sail, woven from coarse wool and reinforced with leather ropes, hangs loosely from the tall pine mast, occasionally catching a soft breeze and rustling with a low, heavy fabric sound. Even the ship itself seems to be falling asleep. The creaking of the wood becomes slower, more subdued, settling into a lazy, drawn-out tempo. The world is shutting down, wrapping itself in a blanket of absolute tranquility. You are safe here, floating on the surface of history, drifting further and further away from the noise, and closer to a deep, restorative peace. As you lie still, cradled in the belly of the vessel, allow your attention to drift away from the vastness of the dark sky and settle on the physical space immediately surrounding you. When most people imagine life on a Viking longship, they envision grueling labor, biting winds, and the relentless, exhausting struggle against a hostile sea. They picture an existence defined entirely by hardship. But right now, in the deepest hours of the night, a very different reality reveals itself. Stripped of the daylight, the shouting, and the constant activity of the crew, the longship transforms. It ceases to be a machine of war or a vehicle of conquest. Instead, it becomes a sanctuary, a protective shell of carefully carved wood floating suspended in the darkness, wrapping its weary passengers in a profound, heavy quiet. To truly understand the peace of this moment, you must understand the extraordinary vessel holding you above the deep water. You are not simply resting on dead planks of timber. You are resting inside a masterpiece of medieval craftsmanship, a structure that was essentially grown, not just built. The Norse shipbuilders did not fight the natural properties of wood. They listened to it, understood it, and coaxed it into shapes that could dance with the ocean. Feel the curved, sweeping lines of the hull pressing gently against your back through the thick layers of wool. This is oak. It is old, strong, and deeply resilient. Long before it touched the salt water, this wood stood as a massive, silent tree in a dark, damp Scandinavian forest, gathering strength from the earth for over a century. The builders did not use modern saws to cut these trees into rigid, lifeless boards. Saws tear through the natural fibers, creating weaknesses. Instead, they used iron axes to carefully split the massive oak trunks along their natural grain. By following the living fibers of the wood, they created planks that were incredibly thin, surprisingly light, and possessing an almost magical flexibility. As you press your hand flat against the decking beside you, you can feel the ghost of that ancient forest. The wood is cool to the touch, smoothed by months of sea spray and the sliding of heavy leather boots. Yet you can still trace the subtle, raised ridges of the natural grain beneath your fingertips. Listen closely to the unique symphony of the ship as it moves. A modern vessel made of steel and fiberglass is designed to be completely stiff, to batter its way through the waves with brute force. When a stiff ship hits a wave, it shudders, it slams, and it crashes with a violent, jarring impact. But the Longship does not crash. It breathes. The Norse used a technique called clinker construction, where the edges of the long oak planks overlap each other, much like the shingles on the roof of a house or the scales on the sides of a fish. These overlapping edges are fastened together with small, hand-forged iron rivets. This brilliant design means the ship is not a single solid box. It is a flexible, articulated entity. As a long, rolling swell approaches in the dark, the water catches the sleek prow. You do not feel a collision. Instead, you feel a subtle, twisting motion travel down the entire length of the vessel. The overlapping oak planks actually slide and shift slightly against one another, absorbing the energy of the water. The ship bends, bowing gracefully to the power of the sea. It's riding over the crest of the wave like a serpent gliding over a hill of soft sand. Because of this constant, microscopic shifting, the ship sings. It is a slow, mournful, and incredibly soothing song. Every time the hull rises to meet a wave, the stressed oak fibers and the iron rivets produce a deep, resonant groan. It is a low, throbbing sound that vibrates right through the floorboards and into your bones. It sounds like the slow, rhythmic exhaling of a massive, sleeping creature. Creak and rest, groan and settle. The rhythm is deeply hypnotic. It is a slow-motion metronome, marking the passage of time not in seconds or minutes, but in the eternal, rising and falling breaths of the ocean. You realize that this sound, which might seem unnerving to a modern traveler, is actually the sound of safety. As long as the wood is creaking, it is flexing. As long as it is flexing, it is surviving. The ship is speaking to the water, and the water is answering, and you are perfectly safe within their ancient conversation. Let your senses explore the rich, heavy atmosphere trapped under the wool blankets with you. There is a very specific scent that defines this world, a fragrance you will never find in our modern age of plastics and sterile environments. It is the deep, smoky, almost sweet aroma of pine tar. To protect the oak from the corrosive salt water, the Norse boiled the resin of pine trees in large earthen pits until it became a thick, black, sticky syrup. They painted this tar over every inch of the hull, both inside and out. The scent is heavy and earthy, like a campfire that has been rained on, mixed with the sharp, unclean smell of bruised pine needles. Woven into that smoky aroma is the smell of the caulking. To make the overlapping planks perfectly watertight, the builders twisted together sheep's wool and the hair from the manes and tails of their horses, soaked the fibers in the same dark pine tar, and hammered them tightly into the seams of the wood. You are surrounded by these organic materials: wood, iron, tar, wool, and hair. There is nothing artificial here. Everything holding you safe above the crushing depths of the Atlantic came from the earth, and it all smells of the wild, untamed landscapes of the north. It is a grounding, primitive scent that triggers a deep, evolutionary comfort in the oldest parts of your brain. It tells you that you are sheltered, that you are warm, and that you have a secure place to rest. Now, as you sink deeper into this state of relaxation, notice how the movement of the water against the outside of the thin wooden hull creates a secondary, softer layer of sound. Because the wood is only an inch thick, there is almost no barrier between you and the ocean. You can hear the exact moment a ripple sweeps along the side of the ship. It creates a continuous, rushing whisper, a gentle shh that travels from the bow at your feet all the way to the stern behind your head. It is the sound of miles and miles of empty ocean sliding harmlessly past. It washes over your consciousness, sweeping away the lingering fragments of your daily worries, smoothing out the tangled thoughts in your mind, just as the wind smooths out the surface of the sea. Imagine the sheer physical relief of the men and women resting around you. For 16 hours, they pulled heavy spruce oars through freezing water. They hauled on rough, coarse ropes that blistered their hands. They stood on wet, slippery deckboards, their muscles tense, constantly balancing against the unpredictable pitching of the sea. But now, in the quiet dark, all of that effort is over. Gravity has reclaimed them. You can almost hear the collective sigh of 50 exhausted bodies melting into the floorboards, their heavy leather boots discarded, their calloused hands uncurled and resting limply at their sides. They are sleeping the deep, dreamless sleep of true physical exhaustion. Their breathing is slow even, and heavy, forming a low rhythmic chorus that blends perfectly with the creaking of the oak and the whispering of the water. You find your own breath naturally falling into line with theirs. You inhale slowly as the ship rises on a swell, filling your lungs with the cold, salty night air. You exhale completely as the ship dips down into the trough, letting your body become heavy, loose, and completely relaxed. The ship is carrying you. You do not need to row. You do not need to steer. You do not need to navigate or keep watch. The massive wooden cradle is doing all the work, holding you suspended in a bubble of safety between the freezing depths below and the freezing vacuum of space above. There is nowhere else you need to be. There is nothing else you need to do. You are entirely permitted to just exist in this dark, warm, creaking space, listening to the endless, beautiful song of the wood and the water, letting the ancient rhythm pull you further and further down into a place of absolute undisturbed peace. As you lie perfectly still, securely bundled in the deep warmth of your wool blankets, the subtle, rhythmic breathing of the wooden ship beneath you continues its slow, endless lullaby. The vessel is no longer just a physical structure of oak and iron. It has become a living, rocking cradle, carrying you gently across the surface of a sleeping world. Let your mind expand outward, moving past the curved edges of the hull, past the sleeping forms of your companions, and out into the vast, dark expanse of the water surrounding you. This is the true reality of ancient ocean travel. It is not characterized by the brief, chaotic moments of arriving at a destination, nor is it defined by the sudden, terrifying storms that dominate the old sagas. The absolute core of this existence, the reality that these seafarers spent months of their lives experiencing, is the profound, unending repetition of the open water. It is a journey built on vast stretches of undisturbed time, where patience is not just a virtue, but the very rhythm of survival. In our modern lives, travel is an impatient endeavor. We sit in the metal tubes, hurtling through the air, or across the land in perfectly straight lines, desperately counting the minutes until we arrive. We fight against distance. We try to conquer time. But out here, on the dark, swelling surface of the North Atlantic 1,000 years ago, such impatience simply cannot exist. You cannot force the wind. You cannot command the tide. You can only surrender to the immense, slow-moving forces of the natural world. Ancient ocean travel requires a complete yielding of control, a deep, settling acceptance that you will arrive precisely when the ocean decides you will arrive, and not a single moment sooner. As this realization washes over you, bringing with it a profound sense of relief, you begin to notice a subtle shift in the atmosphere. The gentle breeze that had been softly coaxing the ship forward over the past few hours is beginning to die down. The massive square sail above you, heavy with the moisture of the night air, starts to lose its taut, curved shape. It flutters weakly once, twice, and then falls entirely still, hanging loose and silent against the tall pine mast. The wind has decided to sleep, and the ocean is following its lead. Without the wind to agitate its surface, the texture of the water undergoes a mesmerizing transformation. The long or rolling swells that have been gently rocking the ship begin to smooth out, flattening and stretching, until the surface of the sea resembles a massive dark sheet of polished obsidian glass. The gentle, rushing hiss of the prow slicing through the waves quiets down to a barely audible whisper. The ship's forward momentum slows to a graceful, lingering glide. You are no longer sailing, you are drifting. You are floating in a state of suspended animation, perfectly balanced between the deep, silent depths below and the quiet, heavy sky above. And then, the mist arrives. It does not roll in with the dramatic, sweeping suddenness of a storm front. Instead, it forms slowly, almost imperceptibly, born from the stillness of the water and the dropping temperature of the night air. At first, you only notice it as a faint, a silvery blurring along the distant horizon, a soft smudging of the sharp line that separates the ocean from the sky. The stars closest to the edge of the world begin to dim, their sharp, piercing light softening into fuzzy, glowing halos before gently fading away entirely. Slowly, deliberately, the mist begins to crawl across the glassy surface of the water, creeping steadily toward the resting Longship. You can feel its approach before you can fully see it. The air, already cool and crisp, takes on a new, heavy dampness. It is a clean, purifying moisture, carrying the absolute essence of the deep ocean, the faint, clean scent of salt, chilled stone, and pure, untouched water. As you draw in a slow, deep breath, this cool silver air fills your lungs, sinking heavy and calming into your chest. It feels like breathing in tranquility itself. The mist reaches the wooden sides of the ship, curling delicately over the carved oak of the gunnels like pale, ghostly fingers. It spills quietly onto the deck, pooling in the low spaces between the sleeping bodies, weaving itself around the base of the mast and the coiled leather ropes. The transition is completely silent, yet utterly transformative. In a matter of minutes, the vast, intimidating expanse of the open ocean is gone. The distant horizon has vanished. The starry sky above is gently erased, hidden behind a thick, insulating blanket of pale gray fog. The world has suddenly shrunk, collapsing inward until it consists only of this small, wooden vessel and a few yards of dark water immediately surrounding it. Everything else has simply ceased to exist. You are trapped in a beautiful floating bubble, completely disconnected from the rest of the earth. This is the ultimate form of sensory deprivation. The mist acts as a visual dampener, removing any sharp edges, any harsh lines, any distant focal points that might catch your eye and stimulate your mind. There is nowhere to look, nothing to analyze, nothing to calculate. The visual silence is absolute. But the mist does not just soften the world visually. It also changes the very nature of sound. The thick, saturated air absorbs and muffles acoustic vibrations, wrapping a heavy, invisible blanket over the ship. The deep, rhythmic creaking of the oak hull, which just an hour ago sounded so clear and resonant, is now subdued and distant. It sounds as though the ship is wrapped in cotton. The gentle slap of the water against the wood is barely a murmur. In this incredible quiet, the smallest, most delicate sounds become profound. You can hear the microscopic shift of the damp wool fibers in the blanket covering your chest as it rises and falls with your slow, steady breathing. You can hear the incredibly faint, rhythmic dripping of condensation. The moisture from the heavy mist is gathering on the cold iron rivets and the edges of the slack sail, forming tiny, perfect spheres of water. They swell, tremble, and finally detach, falling in slow motion to hit the wooden deck with a soft, hollow plop. Drip, plop, drip, plop. The sound is entirely random, entirely unpredictable, yet incredibly soothing. It is the only evidence that time is still moving forward in this suspended silver void. To keep the ship's bow pointed gently into the swells, preventing it from turning sideways and rolling uncomfortably in the dark, 2 members of the crew have remained awake. They are not rowing with the fierce, synchronized power of a raiding party. They are merely keeping time. They sit near the front of the vessel, half asleep themselves, their movements slow, heavy, and hypnotic. They lower their long wooden oars into the dark, glassy water, There is no splash, only a soft fluid shh as the blade slides beneath the surface. They pull backward with a lazy, effortless motion, just enough to give the ship a slight nudge, and then they slowly lift the oars back out of the water. As the wooden blades rise into the misty air, water cascades from them in thin, silvery sheets. It falls back into the ocean with a cascading and shimmering sound, a delicate liquid music that perfectly complements the muffled creaking of the hull. Shh. Pull. Drip, drip, drip. Shh. Pull. Drip, drip, drip. It is a slow-motion dance, a repetitive, trance-inducing rhythm that repeats every 10, 15, 20 seconds. Your mind latches onto this gentle sound. You wait for the soft slide of the oar. You feel the microscopic surge of the ship, and you listen to the delicate rainfall of the water dripping from the wood. It becomes a pendulum swinging back and forth in the dark, pulling your consciousness deeper and deeper into a state of profound, unwavering calm. Wrapped in your heavy wool, completely insulated from the damp, chilling touch of the mist by the thick, lanolin-rich fibers and the heavy animal skins, your body feels incredibly heavy, and your legs are entirely relaxed, sinking deep into the rough boards beneath you. Your arms lie loosely at your sides, all the tension drained from your shoulders and neck. The slow, breathing rhythm of the ocean, the gentle, muffled groans of the oak, the soft, hypnotic dripping of the water, they have all merged into a single, unified lullaby. You are drifting through a forgotten pocket of time, protected within the belly of a wooden creature, sailing endlessly through a soft, gray dream. There is nothing to fear in the mist. It is hiding you. It is holding you. It is granting you the permission to completely, totally, and deeply let go. The world has completely vanished, leaving behind only the immediate, intimate space of your resting body and the damp, heavy timber beneath you. The thick, unsilvery mist that crept across the water has now fully enveloped the vessel, sealing you inside a silent, floating cocoon. You are drifting through the very deepest hours of the dark, that quiet, suspended space between midnight and the first impossible hint of dawn. Time has lost all its meaning. There are no hours here, no minutes to count, no schedules to keep. There is only the incredibly slow, steady inhalation and exhalation of the sleeping ocean, and the comforting rhythmic weight of your own breath matching it perfectly. To be a passenger on a Viking ship at night, surrounded by this impenetrable, heavy fog, is to experience a level of isolation that is almost entirely impossible to recreate in our bright, loud, modern era. We are so accustomed to the constant glare of artificial lights, the humming of street lamps, and the glow of screens that pure, unadulterated darkness often feels alien to us. But in this ancient world, the darkness is not an absence. It is a presence. It is a thick, woven blanket of shadow that physically wraps around your shoulders, tucking you in, protecting you from the vast, unseen horizon. The darkness here is a shelter. It hides the ship from the vastness of the sea, tucking the 50 sleeping souls into a private, hidden pocket of the universe where absolutely nothing is required of them. As your eyes gently adjust to this profound, soft gray void, you notice that the darkness is not entirely unbroken. If you turn your head just slightly against the rough, woven wool of your resting place, you can look toward the center of the ship. There, sitting carefully upon a thick, insulated bed of imported sand and stone, is a small, heavy iron brazier. Fire on a wooden ship is a dangerous, carefully managed thing, never allowed to burn high or wild. But deep in the freezing night, a tiny, heavily guarded source of heat is a necessity for survival. The flames have long since died down, leaving behind a small, concentrated pile of glowing peat and charcoal. It is a singular, mesmerizing point of light in the overwhelming gray and black of the mist. The glow is a deep, bruised crimson, pulsing softly with the microscopic movements of the damp air. It does not cast enough light to illuminate the faces of the sleeping crew, nor does it reveal the towering mast above. It simply exists as a warm, heavy, glowing ember, a tiny tethered star brought down from the sky to keep watch over the sleeping men. Watch the slow, our hypnotic breathing of that small cluster of embers. As an impossibly faint, wandering breath of wind slips through the mist and touches the iron brazier, the deep red charcoal brightens, shifting for just a second into a soft, burning orange. It is as if the fire itself is taking a slow, deep breath in. Then, as the air stills once more, the color deepens back into a heavy, dark, resting red. Inhale, glowing orange. Exhale, settling red. It is a tiny, ancient heartbeat pulsing in the center of the wooden hull. Your eyes feel heavy just watching it. The rhythmic brightening and dimming is incredibly soothing, a visual lullaby that anchors your drifting mind and gives it permission to completely let go. From that small, glowing heart of the ship drifts a faint, distinct scent that weaves itself into the cold, briny moisture of the fog. Or it is the smell of burning earth. The Norsemen often brought blocks of dried peat from their homelands to use as fuel on long voyages. As it smolders in the heavy night air, the peat releases a rich, musky, incredibly grounding aroma. It smells like ancient soil, like deep forests, and quiet, distant hearths. This warm, earthy fragrance mixes with the sharp, clean scent of the salt sea and the heavy, medicinal sweetness of the pine tar coating the oak planks. It is a complex, primitive perfume that speaks directly to the oldest, safest memories buried in your mind. It tells you of home, of shelter, of sitting near a warm hearth while the cold world remains locked outside. Take a moment to truly feel the absolute luxury of your warmth in this cold environment. The mist pressing against the outside of your heavy wool blankets is freezing, damp, and indifferent. If you were to extend your bare hand out into the air, you would feel the biting, wet chill of the North Atlantic night instantly. But you do not need to move. You are perfectly insulated. The thick, heavy layers of sheepskin and woven wool trap the radiant heat of your body, creating a microclimate of deep, oven-like warmth right against your skin. The contrast between the freezing, damp air touching the tip of your nose and the profound, heavy heat baking your chest and legs is intensely comforting. It makes the space beneath your blankets feel like an impenetrable fortress of comfort. You sink deeper into the rough floorboards, your muscles turning to warm, heavy lead, melting into the curve of the ship. Listen to the symphony of the sleeping crew. In the modern world, we often demand absolute silence to sleep, isolating ourselves in quiet rooms. But here, the sound of other resting humans is a crucial part of the safety. You are surrounded by massive, hardened individuals who spend their waking hours battling the elements. Now, however, their defenses are completely dropped. You hear the deep, slow rumbling of a man exhaling heavily near the bow. You hear the soft, rhythmic rustle of someone shifting their weight against the leather of their sea bag. You hear the synchronized, deep-chested breathing of 50 people lost in exhausted, dreamless slumber. Their collective breathing merges with the slow, muffled creaking of the oak hull and the incredibly faint, irregular tick, tick of the cooling charcoal in the brazier. It is the sound of a sleeping village, a tight-knit community bound together by the wood and the water, floating through the void. There is an immense primal comfort in this shared rest. You do not have to be alert because the collective energy of the group is at peace. The men who would fight to the death to protect this vessel are completely surrendered to sleep, which means you too are entirely safe to surrender. Your eyelids are too heavy to keep open now. The soft, pulsing red glow of the ember fades as you let your eyes gently close, but the image of its warmth remains imprinted in your mind. The gentle, rocking motion of the sea continues, a slow, eternal swaying that rocks you side to side, back and forth, up and down. The ship is a cradle, the ocean is a slow, steady hand, and the mist is a heavy, silencing blanket. There is nothing to figure out. There is nothing to plan for the morning, because the morning is a lifetime away, hidden far beyond the thick gray walls of the fog. The history of the world, the battles, the kings, the changing borders. None of it matters out here in the deep, floating dark. The only truth is the weight of your body, the warmth of the wool, and the slow drawing pull of the tide. You are drifting perfectly safe in the past, letting the ancient, quiet night absorb every last trace of your exhaustion, sinking down, down, down into the heavy, black, beautiful stillness. As you lie perfectly anchored in your warm woolen sanctuary, a subtle, almost imperceptible shift begins to alter the heavy atmosphere around you. The thick, damp mist that had wrapped the ship in a tight, gray cocoon is slowly beginning to lose its grip. It does not blow away in a sudden gust of wind, for the air remains profoundly still. Instead, the fog simply begins to thin, dissolving back into the cold night air from which it was born. First, the edges of the mist soften, turning from an opaque wall into a series of pale, translucent veils that slowly pull apart, sliding soundlessly over the dark water. As the veils of moisture separate, something incredibly beautiful happens. The ceiling of your world, which had been pressed down so closely around the ship, suddenly shatters, opening upward into a vast, unimaginable expanse. You are no longer trapped in a small, floating bubble. The universe is revealing itself to you once more. As the last wisps of silver mist drift past the tall pine mast and vanish into the dark, the night sky emerges in all its ancient, staggering glory. Without a single light on the surface of the ocean for thousands of miles, the sky is not just black. It is an impossibly deep velvet canvas dusted with millions of piercing, brilliant diamonds. They do not twinkle weakly through the haze of modern city lights. They burn with a cold, steady, silver fire. The Milky Way stretches directly overhead, a massive, glowing river of starlight flowing across the absolute zero of space. It is a sight so profound, so immense, that it instantly humbles the mind, washing away any lingering human anxieties and replacing them with a deep, silent awe. At the very back of the Longship, near the gently curving wood of the stern, sits a solitary figure. While the rest of the crew remains completely submerged in heavy, restorative sleep, this single man keeps the watch. He is wrapped entirely in thick, waterproof skins and a heavy woolen cloak, rendering him little more than a dark, motionless silhouette against the glittering backdrop of the cosmos. He is the navigator. And right now, in the deepest silence of the night, he is performing an act of pure, quiet communion with the universe. In our modern age, we find our way across the globe by looking down. We look down at glowing screens, at digital compasses, at satellite maps that instantly calculate our precise coordinates with cold, mechanical efficiency. We have outsourced our sense of direction to machines. But ancient Viking navigation by stars required an entirely different relationship with the world. It required a man to look up, to stay perfectly still, and to wait patiently for the sky to speak to him. There were no magnetic compasses on this wooden ship, nor there were no complex brass astrolabes or intricate charts. There was only the naked human eye, the steady rhythm of the sea, and the eternal, unchanging map of the heavens. Watch this quiet guardian of the ship as he works. His movements are incredibly slow, deliberate, and deeply peaceful. He is not rushing to make a calculation. He knows that the stars are not in a hurry, and so neither is he. He leans his head back, letting his heavy hood fall away, and exposes his weathered face to the freezing, crisp air. He fixes his gaze on a single, specific point of light high above the northern horizon. This is Polaris, the North Star. To the Norsemen, It was known as the Stjerne, the guiding star. Unlike every other star in the sky, which rises in the east and sets in the west, spinning in a massive, undizzying circle throughout the night, the North Star remains completely, absolutely fixed. It is the single, unmoving anchor of the entire spinning universe. As the ship rolls gently beneath him, the navigator keeps his eyes locked on that one steady point of light. The profound reliability of that star is immensely comforting. Kingdoms may fall, seasons may change, and the ocean may rise and fall in 1,000 different moods, but the guiding star will always, always be exactly where it is supposed to be. There is a deep psychological rest that comes from knowing something is perfectly permanent. To determine how far north or south the ship has traveled, the navigator does not use complex mathematics. He uses his own body and the simplest of tools. He slowly raises his arm, extending it fully toward the horizon. He holds a small, carved piece of wood, a simple stick, up against the night sky. He aligns the bottom edge of the stick with the dark, invisible line where the ocean meets the sky, and he measures where the North Star touches the top of the wood. Sometimes he doesn't even use a stick. He simply spreads his fingers wide, measuring the distance in hand breadths. It is a slow, deeply intimate gesture. He is literally reaching out and touching the cosmos, measuring the infinite void with the span of his own rough, calloused hand. He takes a slow, deep breath in, letting his lungs fill with the cold, pure air. He holds the measurement for a long moment, swaying naturally with the rhythmic rocking of the deck. He exhales, a long white plume of breath escaping into the dark, and slowly lowers his arm. That is all. That is the entire quiet process, when there is no shouting, no writing, no frantic adjustment of the sails. The ship continues its lazy, drifting glide across the glassy water, and the navigator simply commits the position to his memory, tucking the knowledge away in his mind like a precious, silent secret. Consider the incredible calm required to navigate this way. You cannot be anxious. You cannot be impatient. You must completely sync your own internal rhythm to the slow, majestic rotation of the Earth. As you lie there, watching the silhouette of the navigator, you realize that he is not fighting the ocean to reach a destination. He is simply reading the story that the universe is writing above him. He knows that as long as the guiding star sits 3 handbreadths above the water, they are perfectly aligned with the latitude of their home. They are safe. They are exactly where they are meant to be in this vast, dark emptiness. The silence on the ship is so profound that you can almost hear the stars burning in the deep freeze of space. The absence of human noise allows the grand, ancient mechanisms of the natural world to take center stage. You watch as the constellation of the Great Bear, known to the Norse as the Wain or the Chariot, slowly, imperceptibly wheels its way around the fixed point of the North Star. It is a giant, celestial clock, ticking away the hours of the night in total, absolute silence. The rotation is so slow that you cannot see it moving if you stare directly at it. But if you close your eyes for a few minutes and open them again, you will find that the stars have shifted, continuing their endless, perfect circle. This realization brings a wave of deep, physical relaxation washing over your body. You are part of this perfect, slow-moving system. You do not need to control it. You do not need to worry about the path ahead, because the ancient light of stars that burned millions of years ago is holding you on course. The universe is vast, and you are incredibly small, but rather than feeling terrifying, this smallness feels like an ultimate relief. The crushing weight of responsibility, the endless decisions of modern life, they all evaporate out here under the indifferent, beautiful watch of the cosmos. Your heavy wool blanket feels even warmer now, a perfect counterbalance to the freezing beauty of the sky above. Your breathing is slowed down to match the deep, resonant creaking of the oak hull. Inhale. The ship rises toward the stars. Exhale, and the ship settles back into the deep water. The navigator near the stern pulls his heavy cloak tighter around his shoulders, returning to his state of motionless observation. He is a guardian of the night, a silent bridge between the sleeping men in the wooden boat and the infinite glittering map of the heavens. You let your eyes slowly close. The image of the glowing silver river of the Milky Way remains painted on the inside of your eyelids, a soft fading afterimage. The gentle, rhythmic rocking of the sea continues its endless lullaby. You are drifting under the stars, guided by ancient light and ancient wood, sinking further and further into a state of total, undisturbed, and beautiful peace. As you lie under the infinite canopy of the starlit sky, safe within your heavy woolen cocoon, observe the silent navigator at the stern once more. He has finished his quiet communion with the guiding star. His hand, which just moments ago reached out to measure the vast distance of the cosmos, now rests loosely on the long, smooth handle of the steering oar. But he is not looking up anymore. In fact, if you watch closely through the dim, silvery starlight, you will see that he has allowed his eyes to completely close. In the modern world, to close your eyes while steering a vessel would be unthinkable, a surrender of control to the unpredictable elements. But out here, in the deep, slow rhythm of the ancient world, closing your eyes is not a loss of control. It is an awakening of the deeper senses. The profound truth of ancient Norse sailing techniques is that they relied far less on what the eyes could see, and far more on what the body could feel. When the darkness is absolute, or when the heavy sea fogs roll in and blind the world entirely, the eyes become useless. They search for a horizon that is not there, creating anxiety and confusion in the mind. To survive, the seafarer must shut off the visual world entirely and turn his body into a finely tuned, highly sensitive instrument. He must learn to listen to the ocean with his bones and to read the invisible currents of the air with his bare skin. Breathe in slowly and imagine doing exactly what the navigator is doing. He stands perfectly still, letting his body become a direct extension of the wooden ship beneath him. He is waiting for the wind, but he is not waiting for a roaring gale or a violent storm. He is waiting for the subtle, delicate shift in the atmosphere that signals a change in the weather. For hours, the air has been dead, heavy, and motionless. But now, in the deepest part of the night, a microscopic change begins to occur. You can feel it before you can hear it. It starts as a drop in the temperature, a sudden, crisp coolness that brushes past the exposed skin of your face. It is not a harsh, biting cold, but a clean, purifying chill that carries a very specific, complex scent. When you rely solely on your senses, the wind is never just air moving. It is a messenger, bringing news from hundreds of miles away. The navigator inhales deeply, tasting the night air. Is it the heavy, damp smell of approaching rain? Is it the sharp, sterile scent of distant ice fields floating in the dark? Or is it the faint, earthy sweetness of invisible land, a shoreline still days away, but broadcasting its presence through the invisible currents of the sky? Tonight, the wind brings only the deep, clean scent of the open ocean. It is a steady, gentle pressure that begins to stroke the side of the navigator's face. By simply turning his head until the pressure feels perfectly equal on both of his cheeks, he knows exactly, to the very degree, where the wind is coming from. He does not need a compass needle to point the way. The delicate nerves in his skin are reading the invisible geography of the air. It is a slow, intimate, and profoundly peaceful way to understand the world. There is no rushing this process. You must simply stand there in the dark, breathing slowly, and let the environment speak to you in its own quiet language. As this new, our gentle breeze begins to flow steadily across the dark water, the ship responds. Listen to the slow, magnificent awakening of the vessel above you. The massive square sail, woven from heavy, coarse wool and reinforced with thick ropes of walrus hide, has been hanging limp and lifeless against the tall pine mast. But now, as the invisible current of air catches the heavy fabric, a deep, resonant rustling sound fills the night. It sounds like the slow, deliberate exhale of a giant awakening from a long slumber. Whoosh! The wool drags against the wooden spars. Creak. The heavy ropes pull taut, straining gently against the iron rings. You feel the exact moment the sail catches the wind fully. It is a sensation of profound, heavy grace. The Longship does not jerk forward aggressively. Instead, it feels as though a massive, incredibly soft hand has pressed itself against the back of the vessel, gently but firmly pushing it forward into the dark. The lazy, drifting motion of the ship transforms into a purposeful, steady glide. The transition is so smooth, so entirely devoid of violence or sudden movement, that it only deepens the overwhelming sense of relaxation spreading through your body. With this gentle acceleration, the entire auditory landscape of your floating world subtly shifts. The quiet, lazy slapping of the water against the oak planks changes its pitch. As the prow cuts through the glassy surface with a renewed, steady purpose, the water creates a continuous, rushing hiss. It is a beautiful, static noise, a natural white noise generator that perfectly masks any stray thoughts that might try to creep into your resting mind. The sound is constant, reliable, and deeply hypnotic. Shh, the water whispers as it is parted by the oak. Shh. It murmurs as it slides along the overlapping clinker planks, rushing past your ears on its way back to the dark ocean behind you. Notice how the creaking of the ship also changes its rhythm. When the vessel was merely drifting, the wood groaned slowly and randomly with the passing swells. But now, with the steady pressure of the wind filling the sail, the ship tilts ever so slightly to one side, leaning into the breeze. This microscopic tilt puts a constant heavy pressure on one side of the hull. The oak planks press tightly against each other, and the iron rivets sing a low, sustained note of tension. It is a deep, vibrating hum that travels down the mast, through the floorboards, and directly into the heavy muscles of your back and shoulders. It is the sound of the ship working perfectly, a structural harmony that tells your subconscious mind that you are entirely supported and absolutely safe. To navigate using these ancient techniques requires a complete surrender of the ego. The navigator does not command the wind. He merely asks the ship to cooperate with it. He holds the steering oar with a relaxed, steady grip, feeling the vibration of the water traveling up the wooden shaft and into his hands. If the wind shifts slightly, he does not fight it. He feels the pressure change on his skin. He hears the pitch of the water alter against the hull, and he gently, slowly adjusts the oar to keep the ship in perfect balance with the elements. It is a dance of millimeters, performed in absolute darkness, guided only by touch, sound, and a deep, intuitive understanding of the natural world. Lying there beneath your heavy, lanolin-rich blankets, you are the beneficiary of this silent expertise. You do not need to know the direction of the wind. You do not need to feel the vibrations of the steering oar. You are completely absolved of all responsibility. The sheer, overwhelming relief of having nothing to do, nothing to solve, and nowhere else to be, washes over you like a warm, heavy tide. The anxiety of modern existence, the constant need to be productive, the endless analyzing of past mistakes and future problems, simply cannot survive in this environment. It is stripped away by the raw, simple reality of the wind, the wood, and the water. Focus on the physical sensation of the air touching your face. The rest of your body is a furnace of comfort, locked away safely beneath the heavy layers of wool and sheepskin. But your cheeks and your nose are exposed to the night. You can feel that exact same gentle breeze that the navigator is using to guide the ship. It brushes against your skin with a cool, soft touch, sweeping away the last, lingering traces of tension from your forehead and your jaw. With every slow breath you take, the clean, freezing air fills your lungs, while the heavy, oven-like warmth of the blankets bakes your tired limbs. You are completely held by the ship, rocking gently forward into the starlit void. The rushing hiss of the water, the deep, sustained hum of the oak, the soft, rhythmic breathing of the sleeping crew around you. It has all blended into a single, unified lullaby. The wind is carrying you. The ancient wood is protecting you. You are sinking deeper and deeper into the dark, letting go of everything but the slow, heavy rhythm of the sea, drifting peacefully onward into the quiet, endless night. The Longship has found its perfect stride. Caught in the steady, invisible embrace of the night wind, the vessel no longer simply drifts, it glides. It is an endless, forward motion that feels entirely effortless, as if the ship has slipped free from the heavy grip of gravity and is now simply floating along a smooth, dark ribbon of glass. The rushing hiss of the water parting at the oak prow has become a continuous, unbroken sigh. It is a long, sustained note of pure white noise that washes over your mind, smoothing away every jagged edge, every lingering thought, and every trace of tension you have unknowingly carried with you from the modern world. You are moving forward through the vast expanse of the North Atlantic, yet within the deep belly of the ship, you feel entirely, profoundly still. Allow your awareness to sink deeply into the physical sensation of this endless glide. You are cradled in the very center of the wooden hull, the point of maximum stability. The gentle, rhythmic swaying of the vessel is no longer an external force acting upon you. It has become your own internal rhythm. As the ship leans ever so slightly into the wind, pressing its starboard side into the dark water, you feel a heavy, reassuring pressure against your back and shoulders. As it levels out again, you feel a momentary floating lightness in your chest. Press and release. Heavy and light. It is a massive, wooden pendulum swinging slowly through the dark, and you are resting perfectly at its quiet center. This mesmerizing, repetitive motion acts as a physical lullaby, rocking you deeper and deeper into the floorboards. But it is the extraordinary warmth surrounding you that finally tells your exhausted body it is completely safe to let go. The air sweeping over the open deck is freezing, carrying the sharp, biting chill of the deep ocean night. You can feel its icy fingers brushing gently across the exposed skin of your forehead and your cheeks. Yet this cold only serves to amplify the miraculous, oven-like heat locked beneath your heavy coverings. You are entirely cocooned in thick, woven wool and heavy, lanolin-rich sheepskin. The Norse understood that survival in extreme environments required creating a perfect and impenetrable microclimate, a tiny sanctuary of heat that the cold could never pierce. The heavy wool blankets, spun by hand from the coarse, weather-resistant fleeces of northern sheep, are incredibly dense. They do not just cover you, they weigh you down. This deep, even pressure across your chest, your stomach, and your legs is intensely grounding. It feels like a long, sustained embrace, a physical reassurance that you are anchored, secure, and protected. The natural oils remaining in the sheepskin trap the radiant heat of your own body perfectly. It is a dry, musky, incredibly cozy warmth that seeps directly into your muscles, melting away the stiffness of the cold and the exhaustion of the journey. Your toes are completely warm, your hands are relaxed, the fingers uncurled, resting heavily against the soft, thick fleece. You are a small, burning furnace of life, tucked safely away in the freezing void, a hidden spark of comfort surrounded by millions of miles of dark, indifferent water. As the absolute comfort of your physical body peaks, your conscious mind, having nothing left to analyze or defend against, begins to gently detach from the present moment. The endless, rushing sound of the water and the deep, hypnotic creaking of the oak hull begin to blur. They do not fade away, but they transform, serving as a bridge to a deeply buried, peaceful memory. When you are suspended in the dark, balanced perfectly on the edge of profound sleep, the mind often seeks out its safest harbor. And so, the cold sea air and the open sky slowly dissolve, replaced by the heavy, insulated walls of a different kind of sanctuary. You are drifting backward, in carrying the gentle rocking of the ship with you into a warm, glowing dream. You find yourself resting inside a traditional Norse longhouse. The transition is seamless. The massive, curved oak beams that arch over your head in this memory are the exact same shape as the wooden ribs of the ship beneath you. But here, they are not fighting the ocean. They are supporting a thick, heavy roof of earth and green turf. The walls are immensely thick, built to completely silence the howling winter winds outside. You can hear the storm raging far beyond the walls, a distant, muffled roaring that only makes the silence inside feel heavier, thicker, and far more precious. The center of the longhouse is dominated by a long, stone-lined hearth. A fire burns there, not with a roaring, aggressive flame, but with a slow, steady, a mesmerizing pulse of deep orange and bruised red. It is a mature fire, feeding on thick logs of aged birch and dried peat. The light it casts is soft and forgiving, painting the wooden pillars and the hanging tapestries in warm, dancing shadows. You are lying on a raised wooden platform along the wall, buried under the exact same heavy sheepskins that hold you now on the ship. Breathe in the air of this memory. It is dense and incredibly rich. It smells of ancient wood smoke, of roasted meat, of dried herbs hanging from the rafters, and of the dry, sweet scent of the earthen walls. It is the concentrated fragrance of home, of human survival, and of absolute security. The wind outside may be trying to tear the world apart, but inside this earthen fortress, time has stopped. You are completely insulated from the harshness of existence. Near the hearth, an elder member of the family is speaking. Their voice is low, gravelly, and rhythmic, blending perfectly with the slow crackle of the birch logs. You cannot make out the exact words, and you do not need to. You know the rhythm of the tale. It is an old myth, a story of gods and giants, of long winters and the eventual return of the sun. The meaning of the words is lost to your sleepy mind, leaving only the soothing, repetitive cadence of the voice. It rises and falls like the gentle swells of the sea. This deeply comforting memory, this gentle shifting between the warmth of the hearth and the sway of the deck, serves as a profoundly relaxing bedtime story for adults history has quietly preserved. It is a tale not of conflict or conquest, but of endurance, warmth, and the simple, beautiful act of resting when the hard work of the day is finally done. The Norse men and women who sailed these ships carried these exact memories of their longhouses with them into the dark ocean. When the night was coldest and the sea was vastest, they closed their eyes and retreated into the earthen walls of their minds, finding solace in the remembered heat of the hearth and the muffled sound of the wind. Their memory becomes your memory. Their peace becomes your peace. The boundary between the ancient longhouse and the drifting longship completely vanishes. The gentle, rushing hiss of the water parting at the prow becomes the sound of the wind sweeping harmlessly over the turf roof. The deep, resonant creak of the ship's hull becomes the sound of the heavy wooden beams settling in the warmth of the fire. The profound, an oven-like heat radiating from your sheepskin blankets is the heat of the hearth, baking your tired bones, softening your heavy muscles, and pulling you further and further down. There is nowhere else to go. There is nothing else to remember. The journey across the water will continue for days, but for tonight, you have already arrived at your destination. You are safe in the longhouse. You are safe on the ship. The heavy, dark warmth has swallowed you completely, leaving only the slow, steady rhythm of your own breathing, matching the ancient pulse of the ocean, drifting endlessly into the deep, quiet, and beautiful dark. As your mind lingers in the warm, glowing embers of that ancient earthen hearth, your physical body remains perfectly, securely cradled by the Longship. The boundary between the memory of the land and the reality of the ocean has completely dissolved, leaving you in a state of pure, floating suspension. You are no longer actively listening. You are no longer actively feeling. You are simply existing, surrendering completely to the overwhelming, pulling weight of deep, unconscious rest. It is time to let go of the physical vessel entirely. To travel back through time and space, the seafarers of the ancient world had to master the art of extreme physical conservation. When there was no work to be done, when the wind was steady and the ship was safe, they did not waste a single ounce of energy. They allowed their bodies to shut down, muscle by muscle, bone by bone, sinking into the wooden deck as if they were sinking into the earth itself. You are doing exactly the same thing now. You are following their ancient, silent path down into the dark. Bring your fading awareness gently to your feet. They have carried you through the long, exhausting hours of your modern day, but out here, on the deep ocean, they have absolutely no purpose. There is nowhere to walk. There is nowhere to run. Feel a heavy, warm sensation beginning in your toes, a deep, comfortable numbness that spreads slowly through the soles of your feet and into your ankles. It is as if invisible, warm sand is being poured over them, anchoring them to the rough oak boards beneath your sheepskin blanket. Tell your feet they are permitted to rest. Feel them surrender, falling slightly outward, completely relaxed, entirely heavy. Allow that warm, heavy sensation to drift upward, moving slowly through your lower legs, pooling in your knees, and wrapping around your heavy thighs. The massive, powerful muscles of your legs, which hold you upright against the gravity of the world, are entirely off-duty. The ship is holding you now. The ocean is supporting you. You do not need to hold yourself up. Feel your legs sinking deeper and deeper into the floorboards. The thick wool beneath you compresses under your weight, forming a perfect, molded cradle that matches the exact shape of your resting body. You are sinking down, down, into a state of profound, undeniable heaviness. As this wave of deep relaxation washes over your hips and completely softens your stomach, a subtle, beautiful shift occurs in the atmosphere directly above you. The deep, vast darkness of the night sky, which has been so incredibly clear and still, begins to release its gathered moisture. It does not happen with a sudden, violent crack of thunder. There is no warning flash of lightning. It is a micro-weather system, a gentle, highly localized oceanic drizzle that forms quietly in the cold air directly above the mast. It begins with a single, tiny drop of water. It falls through the freezing, silent air and lands on the massive, taut canvas of the square sail stretching above your head. It makes a microscopic, muted sound. Tap. A few seconds later, another drop falls. Tap. And then, slowly, 1,000 tiny, weightless droplets begin to descend from the dark void. They strike the heavy, woven wool of the sail, the thick walrus hide ropes, and the curved oak gunnels. Because the sail is woven from coarse wool and saturated with natural fats and pine tar, the water does not soak through. It beads up and rolls off. The sound it makes is not the sharp, aggressive drumming of a rainstorm on a tin roof. It is a soft, blunt, incredibly dry sound. It sounds exactly like thousands of tiny, soft grains of sand being poured endlessly over a thick blanket. Shh. This delicate, whispering rhythm spreads across the entire ship, stitching itself seamlessly into the slow, steady creaking of the hull and the deep, regular rushing of the sea parting at the prow. The sound of the gentle rain creates a perfect, impenetrable dome of white noise over your head. It is the ultimate auditory insulator. It seals you inside your tiny, warm microclimate, drawing a protective curtain between your resting body and the vast, infinite emptiness of the universe outside. To the ancient Norsemen, this specific sound, the gentle, steady whispering of a light drizzle on a secure ship, was the ultimate sound of safety. It meant the wind was calm and steady. It meant the sea was cooperating. It meant they could pull their heavy, waterproof leather cloaks over their faces, tuck their hands deep into their wool tunics, and give themselves completely over to the heavy pull of sleep. They did not fear the dampness because they were perfectly prepared for it. The lanolin in their wool kept the moisture completely at bay, while trapping the intense, oven-like heat of their bodies right against their skin. You feel that exact same profound security. The air touching the very tip of your nose is incredibly cool, crisp, and charged with the clean, purifying scent of fresh rainwater, mixing with the deep, briny salt of the ocean. It is the most refreshing, oxygen-rich air you have ever breathed. But the rest of your body, buried deep beneath the skins, is a furnace of absolute comfort. The contrast between the cold, wet whispering of the rain above and the deep, dry, baking heat below is overwhelmingly soothing. It locks your mind into a state of pure, physical bliss. Let the heavy relaxation move up into your chest. With every slow, deep breath you take, feel the tension in your ribs dissolving. You are breathing in the cool, clean rain, and you're breathing out all the remaining exhaustion of the day. Your shoulders, which carry the invisible burdens of your waking life, finally unhunch and melt completely into the wood. Your arms become heavy, lifeless weights at your sides. Your hands, with fingers gently uncurled, rest softly against the warm fleece, completely still, completely at peace. Your conscious mind is now barely a flicker, a tiny fading ember in a vast dark room. The rhythmic, hypnotic whispering of the drizzle on the sail is washing away your last remaining thoughts. Every time a stray thought tries to form, the gentle shh of the rain simply sweeps it away, dissolving it into the dark water. There is nothing to figure out. There is nothing to remember. There is only the rain. Shh. Your jaw relaxes, falling slightly open. The tiny muscles around your eyes smooth out entirely. Your head feels incredibly heavy, sinking so deeply into the bundled wool beneath it that it feels as though you are merging entirely with the ship. You and the ancient vessel are one single entity, floating in the dark, enveloped in the quiet, protective embrace of the rain. While the physical world has faded away, the history has faded away. There is only the sensation of heavy, absolute warmth. There is only the incredibly slow, steady rocking of the ocean, a pendulum swinging you deeper and deeper into the void. The sound of the rain is your anchor, a constant, unchanging companion that promises you are safe, that you are hidden, and that you are allowed to completely, totally, and deeply surrender to the heavy, beautiful dark. Sinking down, drifting away, carried safely by the ancient wood and the gentle, endless rain. The gentle, rhythmic whispering of the rain does not fade. It has become a permanent fixture of your universe, a constant, unchanging curtain of soft white noise that isolates the ship from the rest of existence. It does not grow any heavier, nor does it lighten. It simply persists. The millions of tiny droplets continue their endless descent from the dark, invisible clouds, striking the heavy wool of the sail and the thick oak of the deck with a soft, blunt, mesmerizing patter. Shh. The sound is incredibly dry and safe, a perfect counterpoint to the deep, wet vastness of the ocean stretching out in every direction. You are completely surrendered to this sound now. It has washed away the very last lingering traces of your conscious thoughts, leaving your mind entirely empty, entirely dark, and perfectly at peace. Your physical body has reached a state of ultimate, profound heaviness. Buried beneath the heavy, lanolin-rich sheepskins, warmed by the trapped, oven-like heat of your own life force, your limbs no longer feel like they belong to you. They have melted into the rough-hewn floorboards. So you are no longer merely resting on the Longship, you have become a part of it. Your slow, steady breathing is perfectly synchronized with the rising and falling of the oak hull. The continuous, gliding forward motion of the vessel is your own motion. You are safely locked within this wooden shell, floating endlessly across the dark, rainy surface of the world. But as your physical form finds complete stillness, your dreaming mind begins to gently untether itself. Suspended in this twilight state between waking and the absolute depths of sleep, the boundaries of reality begin to blur and soften. The history of the Norse seafarers is deeply intertwined with a profound, almost mystical reverence for the ocean. To them, the sea was not just a flat, empty surface to be crossed. It was a massive, three-dimensional realm, a living, breathing entity possessing its own secrets, its own moods, and its own ancient inhabitants. In their sagas, the ocean was the cradle of the world, a place of immense power and unimaginable depth. And now, as the rain seals you in, your consciousness begins to slip through the cracks of the physical world, sinking down into that mythical, watery domain. Imagine your awareness slowly drifting downward. It passes effortlessly through the thick wool blankets, through the hardened leather of your boots, and through the solid, clinker-built oak planks of the hull. You are not falling. You are descending with the slow, graceful weightlessness of a single autumn leaf, drifting down through a perfectly still forest. You slip beneath the churning surface of the waves, leaving the sound of the whispering rain and the freezing wind behind in the world above. The transition is completely silent and incredibly peaceful. As you cross the threshold into the deep ocean, you are enveloped in a different kind of darkness. It is not the empty, freezing void of the night sky, but a thick, heavy, fluid darkness. It is a nurturing, supportive medium. You do not need to breathe here. You do not need to swim or struggle. You are simply suspended in the endless, heavy water, sinking slowly into the magnificent, quiet heart of the sea. The pressure of the water around you is not crushing. It is a profound, comforting embrace. It feels like the ultimate heavy blanket, pressing gently and evenly against every square inch of your being. It holds you perfectly in place, neutralizing all gravity, or allowing you to float in a state of absolute, effortless equilibrium. The sensory deprivation of the surface mist has been replaced by the sensory envelope of the deep ocean. All the sharp, jagged frequencies of the surface world are entirely muted. As you drift deeper into this surreal, beautiful dream, a new sensation replaces the creaking of the ship. It is a vibration, a deep, resonant hum that seems to emanate from the very core of the earth itself. It is a slow, rhythmic pulsing. Thump, and a long, drawn-out silence. Thump. It is the heartbeat of the ocean. The ancient Norse believed that the waters of the world were circulated by the slow, massive movements of deep-sea currents and the breathing of the earth. You can feel that ancient pulse now, vibrating through the thick water, passing harmlessly through your weightless form. It is the slowest, most majestic rhythm you have ever felt. It dictates the tides, it guides the migrating fish, and right now, it is guiding your mind into the absolute deepest layers of rest. In the vast, fluid darkness of your dream, you begin to sense movement. It is not the frantic, chaotic movement of the surface world, but something impossibly large, impossibly slow, and utterly peaceful. The Norse seafarers often carved the prows of their longships into the shapes of fierce dragons or great serpents, not just to intimidate their human enemies, but to demand safe passage from the massive, unseen spirits of the deep. They knew they shared the water with leviathans. As you float quietly, your eyes adjusting to the deep, bioluminescent indigo of the underwater world, massive shadows begin to materialize in the distance. They are the great whales, the ancient silent guardians of the North Atlantic. They emerge from the gloom like living islands, their skin the color of wet slate and polished obsidian. They are moving in perfect, synchronized harmony with the wooden ship floating far above them on the surface. They do not swim with effort. They glide with a slow, powerful grace, their massive tails sweeping through the water with a lazy, hypnotic rhythm. One of these magnificent creatures drifts closer to you. You feel absolutely no fear, only a deep, overwhelming sense of awe and kinship. Its eye, ancient and infinitely wise, observes you for a fleeting moment as it passes. The sheer scale of the animal puts everything into perspective. Next to this creature, on the mighty Viking Longship, is nothing more than a tiny, fragile twig floating on a pond. The ambitions of kings, the wars fought over scraps of land, the endless anxieties of your modern life, they mean absolutely nothing down here in the quiet, eternal dark. The whales communicate with each other using a language that is older than humanity. It is a series of deep, mournful, incredibly beautiful songs that vibrate through the water for thousands of miles. You hear it now, not just with your ears, but with your entire body. It is a low, humming frequency that slowly rises into a haunting, melodic call, before sinking back down into a deep, chest-rattling purr. The sound is entirely melancholy, yet deeply comforting. It is the ultimate lullaby of the deep, a song that has been sung in these dark waters for millions of years, long before the first human ever carved a boat from an oak tree. In your dream, you find yourself swimming alongside them, matching their impossible slow-motion grace. You are no longer a tired traveler wrapped in wool on a wooden deck. You are a creature of the sea, perfectly adapted to the heavy, silent world. The rhythmic thump of the ocean's heartbeat, the gentle, sweeping motion of the whales, and the haunting, vibrating chorus of their songs merge into a single, profound symphony of peace. Above you, the Longship continues its endless journey, cutting quietly through the rainy night, a small bubble of human warmth and survival. Below, in the vast, hidden depths, you are experiencing the true, ancient soul of the ocean. The Norsemen understood this duality. They lived in the space between the sky and the deep, respecting the power of the water while drawing comfort from its vastness. Your dream begins to gently fade, not into wakefulness, but into an even deeper state of unconsciousness. The indigo water turns to black. The massive shapes of the whales dissolve into the shadows. The haunting songs echo softly, drifting further and further away until they are nothing more than a faint memory of a vibration. You are slowly pulled back up toward the surface, leaving the deep ocean behind, but carrying its profound, heavy peace with you. You find yourself back in your physical body, wrapped tightly in your heavy sheepskins, resting securely on the oak deck. The rain is still falling, a gentle, constant whispering against the sail. Shh. It is a comforting reminder that the world above is still exactly as you left it. The ship is still gliding. The wood is still holding you. But the deep, ancient heartbeat of the ocean remains within you, a slow, steady rhythm that has completely synchronized with your own pulse. You are perfectly balanced between the rainy sky and the deep, dreaming water, anchored in the safety of the ancient wood, completely, unconditionally, and beautifully asleep. The deep, ancient heartbeat of the ocean slowly recedes back into the hidden depths, leaving your mind resting perfectly on the quiet, gliding surface of the water. You have returned entirely to the warm, heavy sanctuary of the Longship. The gentle, whispering rain that accompanied your dreams has begun to softly tire. The continuous, sweeping hiss of the drizzle against the heavy wool sail slowly breaks apart, transforming into a sparse, delicate rhythm of individual, lazy drops. Plop. A pause, filled only with the slow, rhythmic breathing of the sleeping crew. Drop. It is the sound of the storm's memory, a gentle, fading applause from the night sky, letting you know that the deepest, darkest hours of your journey have safely passed. You remain buried under the immense, comforting weight of your sheepskins. Your body is a furnace of absolute, undisturbed peace, insulated from the damp world outside. You do not need to move. You do not even need to open your eyes to know that the world around you is beginning to undergo its final, incredibly slow transformation. The total, crushing blackness of the deep night, the heavy void that held the ship suspended in nothingness, is very softly beginning to lift. It is not a sudden awakening. It is the most gradual, imperceptible shifting of shadows, subtle, a secret whispered between the ocean and the sky. If you were to let your heavy eyelids part by just a fraction of an inch, you would not see the brilliant, jarring colors of a modern sunrise. The ancient Norsemen, sailing the cold, foggy waters of the North Atlantic, rarely experienced morning as a burst of golden light. Instead, the morning arrives as a slow, merciful softening of the dark. The pitch-black canvas of the night gently dilutes into a deep, bruised charcoal. Then, over the course of what feels like a beautifully quiet eternity, that charcoal slowly bleeds into a heavy, muted slate. The mist, which has never truly left the surface of the water, begins to catch this new, faint light. It transforms the air around the ship into a glowing, silver veil. It is an illusory dawn, a morning without a sun, composed entirely of soft grays, pale silvers, and the deep, rich brown of the wet oak hull. This light is incredibly gentle on the tired mind. It makes no demands. It does not tell you to wake up, to be productive, or to begin your day. It simply exists as a pale, quiet blanket, offering a visual representation of the profound stillness you feel within your own chest. Look at the silent navigator near the stern. Still a motionless silhouette wrapped in heavy, wet leather. He has not moved for hours. His hand still rests lightly on the steering oar, guiding the ship through the silver mist with the same effortless grace. He knows that the true journey is not measured by the speed of the vessel, but by the quiet endurance of the soul. He watches the gray light slowly outline the sleeping forms of his companions, while a silent guardian overseeing a floating village at absolute peace. The small iron brazier in the center of the ship has finally burned down to nothing more than a few pale, cooling ashes, its warm, red heartbeat no longer needed as the sky itself begins to slowly turn from black to gray. The wind has died down to a mere sigh, a barely perceptible breath that barely manages to keep the heavy, damp sail puffed out against the mast. The Longship responds to this calmness by slowing its pace even further. The rushing hiss of the water parting at the prow becomes a lazy, wandering murmur. The deep, resonant groans of the clinker-built hull stretch out, becoming longer, lower, and less frequent. Creak. A long, suspended minute of absolute silence. Settle. The ship is no longer sailing. It is simply drifting, carried entirely by the slow, ancient momentum of the sleeping sea. As the vessel glides through the silver fog, the boundary between the water and the sky completely vanishes. You are floating in a boundless, glowing sphere of gray light. There is no horizon to look toward, no distant landmark to focus on. There is only the immediate, intimate space of the wooden deck and the heavy, warm wool holding you down. This visual emptiness is the final, perfect layer of sensory deprivation. It empties the mind of all lingering expectations. You are completely untethered from the chaotic timeline of the modern world, existing only in this suspended, beautiful moment of ancient, quiet travel. And then, through the thick, silver mist, a new presence begins to gently make itself known. It is not something you can see, nor is it something you can clearly hear. It is a feeling, You a subtle shift in the vibration of the water, a change in the deep, earthy scent of the air. The ocean is shallowing. The endless, deep water swells are slowly flattening out, losing their massive, rolling energy. The water around the ship becomes incredibly still, taking on the glassy, perfect reflection of a sheltered harbor. You are approaching the shore, but this is not a physical shore of jagged rocks, loud seabirds, or bustling medieval ports. The ship is not going to crash against a dock or run aground on a busy beach. You are approaching the psychological shore, the deeply hidden, entirely silent coastline of profound, restorative sleep. The Longship has carried you across the vast, turbulent ocean of your waking thoughts, navigating through the heavy fogs of stress and the deep, dark waters of your modern anxieties, to finally deliver you to this hidden, misty sanctuary. Feel the incredible, overwhelming safety of this arrival. The journey is over, yet you do not need to disembark. You do not need to throw off your heavy, warm blankets or step out into the cold, silver air. You are allowed to stay right here, cradled in the center of the ancient wood, completely protected by the sleeping crew and the silent, watchful navigator. The ship will remain at anchor in this quiet, gray harbor for as long as you need it to. The water will barely ripple against the hull. The wind will not disturb the sail. The world will simply hold its breath, waiting patiently while you sink into the deepest, most healing layers of rest. Your breathing has become incredibly shallow, incredibly slow, matching the absolute stillness of the water around you, or the heaviness in your limbs has turned into a pleasant, floating numbness. You are safe. You are warm. You are completely entirely hidden from the demands of the world. The history of the Norsemen, with all its fierce battles and loud sagas, has faded away, leaving behind only this one, perfect, secret truth, that even the most formidable warriors of the ancient world needed the profound, heavy silence of the ocean to find their peace. And now, that ancient peace belongs entirely to you. As our longship slowly drifts to a gentle stop in this quiet, misty harbor, carrying you safely into the deepest parts of your rest, I want to gently thank you for joining me on this quiet journey through the past. If this peaceful escape has helped you find your rest tonight, please consider leaving a soft like, subscribing to the channel for more gentle histories, and perhaps leaving a quiet comment tomorrow about where your dreams took you. Until our next voyage across the ancient silent seas, may your sleep be deep, your burdens be light, and your waking be incredibly peaceful. Rest now, just rest.